Welcome everybody here today, March 15th. Random is our last. Coming out, first item is the minutes of the December 6, 2023 meeting. Anybody have any changes or concerns?
As far as notes from the last meeting, we did make sure that, or I've been assured that that graffiti's been taken
It is, I've seen it, it looks great.
Great, good, good.
It didn't even mar it where it was removed.
Right.
You wouldn't know it had been there.
And I've got some information on shelters, we'll talk about that further down in other business, but, just kind of give you a heads up on that.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the December 6, 2023 meeting.
Second?
Roll call, Joe? Bradley?
Yes.
Angie?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
Dustin?
Yes.
All in favor, none opposed?
Item 2 is review for consideration of approval operating as a limited service on April 8th, which is our solar eclipse, to mitigate concerns about traffic congestion or any things that we may have involving the eclipse.
I talked to the police, because I'm not a traffic expert, I called the local traffic expert. I talked to Lieutenant McCabe, who handles emergency management, especially for police. And he said, you know, I wanted his advice. What would he do if he was making a plan for transit? And he said that he would not cancel, that he would listen to our drivers, you know, there are boots on the ground, follow up with them, handle it a bit more like we handle inclement weather, you know, that sometimes there's slowdowns. But he expected it to be congestion similar to when Steel Horse Rally is happening. That there will be a big influx of people in and people out of the city, and there will be some delays. But he didn't think it was demand response only level. And he mentioned something I had thought of too, that, you know, we advertise having a public transit system here. So people who came here to visit for the totality are expecting to have public transit while they're here, to do other things during the day too. So even if we have to kind of, you know, it's delayed transit, and maybe we could do things like, you know, promote to expect delays, you know, and to, hey, you may want to ride out early, you know. But he didn't advise.
Come on in.
Yes, come in.
He didn't advise canceling.
Well, if I could give an overview, kind of, just kind of overview or a summary of my memo here, and just an outline about what this is all about, in case the rest of you might not be as familiar with it, but, and we've gotten a lot of information from, the police chief and police department, and that, you know, they have indicated some concerns to me, or at least it's what I've
Okay.
is that, you know, concerns of a lot of congestion, possible communications issues, and a lot of different things, that could impact infrastructure. And so the point is, nobody really knows. We haven't had one of these things, and so I feel like to best prepare in a way that we can still provide service and not, I could just say if we put fixed routes out there and with the full expectations that they're gonna run all day, they have to be choreographed. I mean, we're talking even the smallest little minor traffic congestion can throw off one of the fixed routes, and if it throws off one of the fixed routes, it throws off all the fixed routes. It's very difficult to ensure that that is going to remain, and so that's where I felt like we really need to look at possibly doing, demand response, much like we do in the inclement weather, type deals. And plan that from the very onset, and I know that's an inconvenience, but, you know, depending on what we see, what I've been told are the hotels are nearly all full, most of them have a 3-night minimum stay, and so, you can anticipate with all that, you know, tourist traffic in here already, then pretty good assurity there can be some additional,
So the
Traffic
hotels are
congestion.
already full?
yes.
They're booked.
They're already
Oh,
booked, and, mostly, I think it's a 95% completely booked, and so, that's a concern. And it's a good thing for our area, but, you know, with all of these things happening, transit, you know, in demand response is a pliable service, and we can make adjustments. We can put more, my thinking was not just like limited service like you might see on a day where it is bad weather, but taking those same drivers that we have out on fixed routes and putting them in to buses and operating them in a demand capacity. So we'll have more buses out than what we normally have, you know, in a demand response. So normally, in a demand response setting, we usually only have 3 buses out, okay? But we can put out, we've still got a lot of these white buses, so we could put out, easily 6 or 7 white buses out there to do what we need to do, and still operated in a demand response type configuration, and get people to where they need to go. It's just not doing it choreographed, and so if one bus gets hung up, it's not gonna affect the other buses. So in other words, it's going to be like, a super hyped up demand response, if you will. So that's what I was recommending that we operate. I mean, we can always, if we start out in fixed routes and we, you know, start experiencing problems right from the get-go, it could be really difficult to try to correct it from that point on. But that's what I'm envisioning or recommending that we do.
So I want to clarify, because, yeah, it's hard. So when you pull people from routes, you're pulling from the fixed routes?
Right.
Okay. All right.
So what happens, how we normally operate demand response is you call in advance and you let us know what your transportation needs are gonna be for that day. And then we arrange that, through a schedule, and then we can disseminate buses out to pick people up. So we would be doing this in the same fashion, except we would use, more buses and more drivers. So, we could handle a greater load, rather than trying to do it in a fixed route. If we get jammed up on Rogers Avenue or something, and, you know, it's gonna affect every route out there. Or it may be Midland route that gets jammed up, or, it looks like you have a question.
I just wanted to make a statement that, with the fixed routes, we don't know who is getting on the bus and where they're going to be dropped off. And if we have to stop, then they're possibly stranded. With the demand response, we know who we've taken where, and we get them back home,
Right.
okay? So it kind of protects the passengers, and nobody is left stranded, not having a way home.
Yeah.
It's a domino.
Right.
Our visitors that are coming in for the event, under the impression that we have adequate public transit, aren't gonna know how to use demand response. They're not gonna be scheduled a day in advance, and they're not gonna know how to call and handle that. They're gonna expect us to operate like a real city and get on the bus stop.
Greg, do you have an answer for that?
Well, we are preparing, with, Mr. Ken's suggestion, we are preparing for same-day scheduling as well. We can't handle same-day scheduling. Due to the fact that we're having this meeting now, we have enough time to put out, communication about what we're planning on doing on that day. So it'd be blasted everywhere possible about that. We also gotta think about that we have 35, 40-foot buses that are trying to maneuver in this influx of traffic and flow. So we already have difficulties on Rogers already, with just regular everyday traffic, with regular everyday people coming in from Van Buren and all these other cities that come to work on a regular day. So just imagine if all our hotels are 90-95% full, and on that particular day we're gonna have an influx of cars and people. It's gonna be kinda hard to maneuver those big buses
Right.
if we have a jam-packed deal. So with the demand service, we have smaller vehicles that can move and use the interstate and use back roads a lot better to maneuver around the city to get people to where they need to go, jobs, dialysis, whatever that may be.
Great.
And they can be able to schedule the same day if we need to. And that's the beauty of having all our fixed route drivers in a vehicle that can maneuver a little bit better around the city. So if that makes sense.
Right, and we're not trying to omit anybody getting transportation, but we're trying to best plan a strategy that will work and allow us to get people where they need to go, not get stuck in traffic. And,
So when you have same day delivery, how much lead time would a person have to have in order to get a bus?
Well, so, in all honesty, the more lead time we have, the better we can plan, you know, what staffing we're gonna need, what buses, equipment we're gonna need, and how to arrange that. So, we're going to ask that people, you know, that people schedule in advance. And as Greg said, that doesn't mean that we're not gonna be able to help people on the same day. But what we're gonna ask for is that if you know what your intentions are, let us know so we can incorporate that into a schedule. And, on the same day, and we've done this in weather days as well,
Yes.
you know, we understand things don't always pan out the way you plan. You know, so we've made some accommodations where we could, and that's what we're stating that we'll do here, you know, is, you know, if you've got something on that day and you couldn't work it out before, we'll try to get to it. You know.
I was just thinking about the number of, that this becomes a family occasion where family members come in and then just inspired to all of a sudden
Mhm.
go somewhere, you know, hey, this is a better place to be, that sort of thing.
Right.
So, they probably couldn't get a bus because that would be too immediate, right?
Well, I mean, they could just call up and we could
See what
arrange
happens.
that. We'll have buses all over the city, so.
Yeah. And I was thinking about also the fact that the middle of the day is the time when it's going to be.
Right.
Right, and at that point, is there any adjustment in any of the scheduling?
Well, there would be if we're in demand response. There will not be if we're in fixed routes.
Okay,
That's part of the
that's a
problem.
good thing about demand
Yes.
response.
If demand response is pliable, we can make adjustments. We can,
Mhm.
like Greg said, we can use back roads if we have to. You know, we have carefully planned out the routes for the larger buses. So if we go into it with the fact that we're gonna use the larger buses on fixed routes, something happens and we have to deviate, you know, we don't wanna be taking big buses just everywhere that we haven't actually, you know, planned that out, so.
I wonder if consideration for just running a fixed route of Rogers or something, a main, that would be the only fixed route.
And we might could look at that on the day of, and, you know, if we feel like, hey, we're getting bombarded and this is a particular area, we can, you know,
Yeah.
we can make those adjustments, but to assure transportation, you know, with the least amount of interruptions as possible,
Mhm.
I think it needs to be scheduled,
Mhm.
and planned.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I'm afraid we're gonna be stuck in traffic,
Mhm.
and it's not good to have a 40-foot bus stuck out there in the middle of, you know, in the middle of Rogers or something.
Very much.
You know.
My only other concern is how do you publicize something as unique as this?
Well, I mean, we can do that. We have the website that we can put that out on. Veronica said.
Yeah, website, we got email, we got text, we got our, route shout that we use, and route maps that we use to blast out this information. And we'll get with, our PR, guy, for the city, and we can, make whatever announcement that we need to make through him.
And we have the automated phone calls.
Well, my
that we use
concern
Right.
is people
for
that needed to get to work.
free ride days.
Yeah, that's our route match and
Oh, okay.
route match software.
I don't think it's gonna work very well for that time period.
Well, you know, one of the things I thought about was how it might impact people is, you know, normally on a day where it's demand response, we have an added cost. You know, it's a $3 trip, and so I thought, well, you know, could we look at, some sort of a fare incentive, you know, on that particular day for this particular event? Not so as to, you know, change the set of precedents for future events. But this is a unusual one-time kind of thing,
An
and so,
eclipse fair.
you know, could we do a solar eclipse special?
Yes.
You know, and, you know, maybe, do it at the fixed route cost, you know, $1.25, and maybe we honor the monthly passes. And, you know, again, we don't wanna get so big that, you know, it's a problem that we can't handle it in demand response, because now we're going to, you know, different destinations. And, but, you know, I don't know, you know, this is what the issue we're gonna be dealt with, and we need to try to plan it out as quick as best we can. And, you know, running fixed routes is gonna be, you know, especially where it's choreographed, is gonna be very difficult. Now, we could run fixed routes and not have any time factors put on them, you know, where they make connections. But you know, I think that would be very difficult for people that are used to using the routes and trying to figure out how to get to places. But
I think leave early is a whole lot more simple than that you're gonna need to call and schedule it. You know, plan, there's gonna be traffic today, you know, if I gotta be at work at 10 a.m., well, you know, normally I take the 8 a.m. bus, you know, I gotta take the 7 a.m. bus, and it's today. It is a lot easier to plan for. Just like planning around the Rogers traffic when you drive yourself during Christmas, you leave extra time.
And one more thing, just real quick, with fixed route, you know, we run around 11 hours, but if we get held up, that can completely change to something to where it ends up being only 9 hours or 8 hours. If somebody get held up and we can't move for a period of time, which that time frame that they talking about that is taking place, is a big factor that we can lose an hour or two because we're not able to connect, and people that got somewhere can't get back. And so,
They'll be stranded.
they'll be stranded, and that's a possibility that throws off the whole fixed route, not doing that.
right.
Would they just have to wait longer on the bus?
They could either have to wait longer on the bus or wait longer at the spot they're at
Yeah,
for the bus to get there, but you lose time, when services ends at 6 o'clock. So say for instance for Christmas, you know, we have those times where Rogers are jam-packed. And if we can't move the bus, and the bus takes not an hour, 45 minutes to get from one side of town and back, but takes an hour and 15, an hour and 20, then that holds everybody else back. And so once we start back, we could be 30 minutes in the next hour before we actually really, and that trickles down every hour, when you think about it.
Either
Just-
way,
just-
I think we're gonna have some disappointments.
Yeah.
For the totality of it all,
Absolutely.
I would rather have the demand response and be able to work with that and advertise it up front instead of have a collapse of 2 hours. Because we're gonna make a lot more people mad in a collapse if it happens. We don't know, that's kind of not here, than what we would maybe inconveniencing a person or two. I see everybody's opinion, you know, because they can't get to work or it's a little bit more
Yeah.
difficult. And I think we should probably honor the passes on that day even for demand response.
Yes. That's what I'm thinking, is, if we were, you know, because we have had some concern before about when we do have these, well, even when we have free ride days, I feel like it takes away from the value of a monthly pass. And, you know, or if we do these, limited service days, and they bought a monthly pass with the anticipation that they can use it for their general travel, and they can't, you know, then that creates a problem too. So, if we were to do some sort of a special, then that would address that. But I can say, this is unique, all right? Anytime we have something unique that occurs in the transit environment, for instance, we have an accident, or there is an accident that's blocking a street, or a train that's stuck on one of the tracks, and like it was on Fresno the other day. Anytime that happens, we go into an automatic demand response mode, to cure it. That may mean we're running the fixed routes as much as we can, but we usually put demand response buses out there, extra staff, extra vehicles to mitigate that problem. And so that's what I'm saying. I think this would be the best way to mitigate that circumstance. You know, not knowing exactly what it may be a day where we don't have any traffic that we anticipated. You know, I've listened to, you know, Chief Baker talk about this. He's concerned, you know, that there's gonna be traffic congestion. listen to, folks from the AMP, they're concerned, again, the hotels are sold out. So likely that there's going to be something different, and we need to be prepared for it as best we can be. We can always go back to a fixed route if we feel like the day is gonna present itself or lend itself where we could do that, but it's harder to switch to a demand response configuration mid-shift. That would be better to start out that way and see how the day holds and make adjustments accordingly.
Is the heaviest, fixed route traffic at the usual go-to-work hours of 8 and 5?
Fixed routes are pretty heavy all day long.
Okay.
Probably, I would say, your lightest hours might be 10 o'clock, in the 10 o'clock time frame.
Okay,
At noon, it gets very heavy. It's very heavy in the morning. It's very heavy in the afternoon, pretty much from 3 on.
okay.
So, there might be like a 1 o'clock lull and a 10 o'clock. Would you say that would be fair?
That's what I tend to notice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right. It's a little lighter in the early morning, but around, but then,
Okay.
I would think if we're gonna do this, we need to pass out a flyer to tell people how it works, starting a week or so ahead of time. That everybody rides bus.
Right. And I visited with Josh this morning, Josh, and he indicated they would help us get the word out, in whatever, our desire is to do. I've talked with administration on this idea. They thought this was a good idea, to be pliable as well, so. So I just feel like this is the way we need to start out, and not get ourselves in a bind right off the bat. Again, we can go back to that fixed route if it looks and feels like, this is something we can do. We'll have the same number of drivers out there, so, they'll just be doing it in a different capacity. But, yes, it will be different, but I think it can be done, and, I feel like it would be good to advertise some sort of a special for it, because, if they are, like you said, if they are, getting some kind of a disappointment, there should at least be some sort of a, helpful,
Yeah.
tool out there, which would be, a cheaper rate. But we just don't know. We don't know what the outcome of the traffic is.
The loss would be too great if we just made it a simple $1 a person.
I mean, we could do that. That
Yeah.
is a possibility.
Yeah.
I
And we're
think,
talking about more people,
Right.
hopefully,
right,
or maybe not hopefully.
and still honor the monthly pass.
Yeah, yeah.
We could do that.
Yep, publicity and a price cut sounds like a real vacation.
Thoughts, Melissa?
I think that there's a lot of great ideas out there, and I think, we're having to kind of crystal ball this thing here. And it's, picking which is gonna be the least inconvenient thing, doing business as usual, as much as we can make it as usual, is the least inconvenient thing. But, there is value to a lot of the other thoughts too.
So the thought would be to, offer it as $1, is that what I'm hearing from the commission? And honor the monthly passes, and, schedule it, initially, and then we can kind of get an idea maybe then what the, ridership load's gonna be, and then, when the day unfolds, we can see what our ridership load is gonna be like, and what the congestion load's gonna be like, and maybe make some adjustments accordingly, if it looks like we can go back to a fixed route.
That's something that the police really said when I talked to them, was the importance of listening to your drivers on the ground about,
Right.
what the conditions are all over town,
So I could make a motion to go to a fixed route for a reduced price and to advertise like crazy. Demand response, is that what I said? No, I said, oh, sorry, demand response.
Now for clarification, when you guys keep saying monthly passes, you also mean to honor the student passes and the veteran passes
Yes.
also?
All monthly passes.
All
Okay.
Passes.
Okay.
That makes sense, yeah,
Just wanted clarification for the vote.
yeah,
Is there a second?
I'll do it. Second.
Okay. Roll call, Dustin,
Yes.
Melissa,
No,
Bradley,
Yes,
Joe? Yep. Angie?
Yes.
4 in favor and 1 opposed.
Pray you're not.
Item number 3 today is to form an open discussion
it's an unusual thing.
It is.
of ridership and factors or incentives that will promote growth and utilization of the transit.
Okay.
So, I think I've given you some information, you see a form, it's titled passenger data, and I apologize for the small numbers. But if you take a look at the second, row there, it's titled total all service, fixed route demand, ADA charters, unlinked. This will give you an idea of what this is our actual ridership, from 2019 to the end of February, of this year. And so, when we look at ridership now, the nation's industry, they basically judge it based off of COVID, everything is tied to COVID now. And, cause ridership has gone down for almost every transit agency, across the country, since COVID. And you have to think about, we're operating in a new paradigm now. I mean, you've got a lot of people that are receiving, medical services remotely, they're working remotely, they're receiving education remotely. It's a whole different way of operating than what we've done before, and it has its impacts on transit, public transit. And, so, what we're doing now is, we're having to build back to what we were prior to our COVID statistics. And just a little bit of background, you may remember that our ridership was starting to bust at the seams at 2019 when we started ordering the large buses. We were procuring the large buses with the idea to get 2 at a time, 2 per year. That was our plan. And then COVID came along, right? And in April, I think it was, of 2020, our ridership kind of went half, was cut in half. And the blessing side of that was, we also had this thing called social distancing that came into play. And so, and the state even regulated that you couldn't have more than 10 people on a bus. And so, so it worked out, and, that the lacking ridership allowed us to do the social distancing that we needed to do on the buses. However, we were right in the middle of a procurement, statewide procurement between at least 3 different agencies in getting large buses. So, we've pressed on with that. Well, fortunately, also in 2020, we received the CARES Act grant, and we got $5.4 million in ways to mitigate, the effects of a pandemic. So we sent a list to FTA, and that list included purchasing all new fixed route buses. So that's how we were able to get our full fleet. Now, this money that we got, CARES Act funds, was 100% funded. So, so we said, we want to buy 6 fixed route buses. We want to extend the awning at the transfer station. I think you were instrumental in that when we talked about everybody hanging under that little bitty piece of awning that we had. And we needed a bigger awning, so that was the second project that we did. Third project was, we bought an emergency generator, because although it's not directly tied to COVID, it is an emergency function, and it's helped already in what we didn't really understand at the time, but it's preserved. We had a bunch of air conditioners going out, and part of that was the brownouts that we had, and so these air conditioners would be on during the middle of the night. Brownout would on, the second that there's any difference in power surge, and so we're saving just equipment around here, with the emergency generator, even when those occur. And this place is a lightning magnet, so anyways, and the final thing we did was we provided a year's worth of operations expenses. We paid for that out of COVID, 100% funding, so that helped the board in being able to, have some of that funding back that we would normally, pull those funds for operations on transit, so, I felt like it was a good strategy. We pitched that to FTA approved it, and we got to work, and that's how we got our large buses. So how that affects ridership is, one of the things that we did on the large buses were several things. We put electronic air purification systems in it. We put a driver's compartment in it to separate the driver from passengers, because that was one of the number one complaints we got. They felt like a driver might catch COVID and spread it to some of the passengers. So, and then the drivers were concerned that they would get it from the passengers. So there was just, having that compartment where it could isolate the two was very helpful. Not to mention in security reasons, it helps a lot.
We had a balance issue a few years
Yeah,
back, and that
yeah.
would have helped.
Yeah, and then, we designed the buses to have two doors. So we mitigate the face-to-face interaction, so you board one way and depart another. And, so you avoid that face-to-face interaction. Antimicrobial seat spray, everything you could think of in these buses are designed around mitigating a pandemic. And they'll be that way from here on out. And so that helped a lot, I think. And I think it helped in social distancing, because now we're trying to build our ridership back to what it was. We did have, in 2019, we had people standing up because and sitting on the floor because we didn't have enough seats. Now we have plenty of room for passengers. We don't have that going on. We equipped these buses for 3 wheelchair security stations. We didn't realize that they were gonna get used that quickly. So from day one, we put these buses out, we started getting 3 wheelchairs on every bus. And it's like, okay, we didn't plug that amount of time into our schedule. That's a time element. And, so anyway, that did help with, the wheelchairs, number of wheelchairs or mobility devices that we had. So we feel like, that has helped us in building our ridership back. And I think the last measurement that I did that I kind of publicly announced was back in December, and our ridership at that time was 87% of pre-COVID. Okay, and and we're gonna pull up, if you could share that screen, Greg. If you look here at APTA's, they call it the data drill down. APTA is American Public Transit Association, and they're showing you kind of a view there of the nationwide ridership. Now look to your far left, you're gonna see that's where it was pre-COVID. Okay, and guess what happened like April of
Yeah, we know what happened.
look how it went down. Okay, and so steadily, this is the nation's ridership. The nation is blue, and the West Central region, which is more the region we're in, is the yellow. That is where I took the 87%. If you look right now, the latest in 222 weeks, the latest they have is what, 78% for the nation, 74%, and we're much higher than that. We're bumping up to almost what we were in 2019, and so I think we've done good. And to me, well, if you compare our ridership to the prior year, you may think, gosh, it's not as good as it could be. But when you compare it to the nationwide trend, you can see right there's proof that we're running ahead of the nation's trend in ridership. And so we're proud of that. That's going to be very helpful. And we think that the large buses is probably what's attributed to that.
Yeah.
The fact that we've gone to larger equipment, more, those people that are apprehensive about, and there's still a lot of apprehensive out there today about
Yeah.
COVID. Now they're feeling better about riding those big buses. And
especially with a lot of our riders being people who are vulnerable populations. Older people and people who take it to medical appointments and stuff who, you know, have things that make COVID extra risky. We have some folks that are a big core of our rider population that are more concerned maybe than the regional concern as a whole.
So I wanted to share with you that, and then I thought this might be a good time to just talk openly about, some thoughts, cause I mentioned to you in the last meeting, you know, there are options of what we might be able to do to increase ridership even further going forward. You know, now we have the equipment, we have the larger buses that operate the trunking system. You know, we're looking at, you know, acquiring some, and our buses are CNG, 100% CNG, so that's an alternative fuel. And I got a chance to read a study, and at the time we bought these buses, we could have gone with either electric or CNG, and we opted to go with CNG. I know that Little Rock went with some electric. I know that Shreveport was all electric at about that time frame. Now they've parked all their buses. That corporation has gone out of business, and so there's some problems with the electric bus, the size that we have, okay? And one of the things is their advertised range is 195 miles. Their actual range that they're operating on is about 32% of that. I mean, right off the bat, you drop out 20% for what they call useful life of the battery, which is the top end and the low end. Then there's the battery degradation that you take out. And then there's the battery reserve that you take out. And so, you know, so that's that you can get the full life of the battery. But all those things being said, you're getting about, like I said, 32% or something like that. So they're actually getting about 62 miles before they have to charge. And we operate on 200 miles a day. So I think the CNG, where we can operate 2 days before refueling, was a better option. And, but that being said, I think there is a market for electric vehicles for the demand response. So we're looking at that.
Can we buy the ones Shreveport didn't want anymore?
But now,
Can we buy the ones that Shreveport didn't want anymore?
well, those are large buses.
Oh, okay.
So, what we're looking at.
I'm just looking for a bargain.
Two things that we're doing. One is, we're looking at smaller vehicles for paratransit, you know, something that might be similar to the fixed route style bus. And so we're working with that. There's not any right now that meet the Buy America requirements, so we're working to try to, the transit associations are working to try to pull them in. But there are buses out there that are low floor, that have ramps similar to and they look kind of like our big fixed route buses, but they're they're smaller, and they're a total electric. And my feeling is if we could get, you know, 60 miles, maybe 100 miles, they advertise 130 miles range, so, you know, figuring it might be something less than that, but if we had 2 of them per day, you know, we could charge one and operate one, you know, and cycle them out. And demand response buses in that fashion are something that can be scheduled, so we can schedule a switch out. And I'm bringing this up in the ridership discussion because I think something like that is gonna improve ridership. The comfort would be amazing, you know, where you're hearing the lift now that rattles when we pick up a new bus from the manufacturer. It rattles and, you know, it's noisy. There's 3 steps to negotiate, you know, trying to get into the bus. Very difficult for elderly and disabled. This has got a ramp versus a lift. A lot less problems with ramps compared to lifts, you know, happening out there during the operation. So I think that would encourage ridership. I really do. So that's one thing I think that, and the second thing I mentioned is we're working on a study, and the study, trying to get a study done. The study that I'm referencing is the one that told me what's happening is they're actually getting 32% of their, you know, useful, of their battery charge out of that. So this study is accurate, it's good, and if we can get one done similar to that, it's customized to your local area. So they would take analyze Fort Smith and our routes, our ridership, our structures, our inclines, you know, where charge stations are, where they might be in the future, where they should be in the future. That study, would help us prior to acquiring, you know, electric buses, so that we know, you know, and we could possibly even put solar, it would be my idea. We've got a big field out here, could we put solar out there, solar panels, sell the energy during the day, buy it back at night to charge the vehicles and do it efficiently. So that's what I want done in the study, you know, and that would help us a lot, I think, in determining, you know, whether we could operate these things, and if we did, we could do it efficiently, because we had a study done that was applicable to our area. So that's something we're doing to encourage ridership. But there's other things, and I think you saw there was a sheet that I put in on the back of this, and I pulled that from a ridership TCRB, Transit Corporation Research Board. They do a ridership study, and this is one page in here that I thought kind of tells a lot about things that affect ridership. And you have, you know, it talks about these strategies, you know, increased route structure, increased frequency, service cutbacks, dynamic scheduling, increased speed, improved security, improved comfort, and increased capacity. These are all the things that we talk about when we do a survey with the Frontier Metropolitan Planning Organization. They put these questions in there, and, you know, I think our results have been pretty favorable. And, but are there changes that we could do in any of these things? Because there's internal influences, things that you can change, right? You know, things that are within our control. But there's external influences like gasoline prices, things that we can't change necessarily, but they may affect ridership. So gasoline prices go way high, ridership increases. So what sort of thoughts does the commission have in ways to improve ridership?
I've encountered a whole lot of people who are surprised, our new big buses have gone above and beyond on helping people know that we have a transit system. A lot of people, I would always run into people who were surprised we even had one, and the buses were for everybody. You know, they thought they were shuttle buses for organizations you had to qualify for. But now, I still see a lot of people who know we have them, but are very surprised to learn that it's $1.25, that this is affordable, that you don't have to, you know, buy an expensive pass, and it's not pricey. When they learn that that's a pretty attainable price, this is a big positive, and we are not capitalizing on that asset. There's nothing on our buses that shows on the outside when you're driving past them in your neighborhood that says, oh, that's $1.25. We need like a sign on the outside, and even running it, I don't know how our displays on the front that say what the route is work, but like possibly like where it would say like Midland, but then it would flash $1.25, Midland, $1.25, so that people will know, hey, it's a paid service, you can buy it, you can hop right on, and it's only $1.25, you can afford this.
Those
And
are
the
really
downtown
good.
shuttle that is free, there is nothing that shows that's free. And that's a huge part of the downtown shuttle, is that it's free. And the segment of the population that knows that is tiny. And like when I visited Cleveland, they have a very similar structure with a free downtown shuttle to ours. But they've made sure that every sign, every stop where the downtown shuttle stops is signed explicitly that is the free downtown shuttle stop, that this is a free stop, hop on here for free. They have a kind of a different shaped and different colored logo for that. And you know, now that, and it would work great when ours was a trolley bus, we rented a trolley, but now they're the same shape. But you know, we could, you know, make the signage more explicit, you know, a little green vinyl signing on there that says free downtown shuttle. And the same in the route shout. It doesn't show in the route shout that the shuttle is the free one.
Okay. I think those are all achievable things.
Well, that's it, those are cheap. cheap and no money fixes.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
Vinyl's cheap.
So any
Change the
other, any
signs.
other thoughts or ideas on what we, maybe from the rest of the commission? What we might be able to do to, increase ridership or?
But there are employers who, they're, you know, maybe they could publicize that, you know, this is, make a connection between the schedule to get to work and, push the concept of riding the bus to work. You know, I feel like people don't realize that it could work for them. And that if the businesses would help, you know, put information out or encourage, I think, you know, maybe that would help people and us, you know.
I
So-
saw an article recently about how NWA has driven theirs through the roof lately compared to their previous ridership by making it free. But I don't know that that's really the best solution for us at this point.
No.
So, I'm glad both of y'all brought that up, and I wanna share with you an experience that I learned at the most recent, transit conference in Tulsa. I've been following, Shreveport, they went free, and I visited with him before they decided to go free, and we had many conversations about it, and, he was nervous about it, and I was gonna ask him, you know, at this conference, how did that turn out for you? Well, the topic of his session was how to go back from free to charging for transit. And I thought, that answers my question for you.
Well, I think it's different in different markets.
But-
Houston seems to be having great success with their free program,
Right.
and they've had it a few years. But, you know, we're a different
Well-
situation in Houston.
And here's what his answer was. He had a whole session on this, and, so there were benefits in going free. He did it for a limited period of time, and the benefit was exactly what you mentioned. The agencies, medical facilities and all started understanding a little bit about the benefits of public transportation when it was free. So their ridership increased 300%, 300% when they went to free. But there were a lot of problems, you know, that was created, and mostly he said it was his staff, you know, when they were used to transporting, you know, an organized manner of ridership, getting on, getting off, to just loads of people. And he said that created a lot of problems, you know, in maintaining staff and overworking staff.
Yeah,
And, you know, they lost money, and so they had to,
Yep.
they had
told you it was.
to look at,
I don't know. I have no idea. Okay. I don't know.
they had to look at, you know, coming back with an increase, and to make, basically to make it work. And so then what happened was, they got a whole bunch of donations from a lot of these businesses to do, you know, some sort of a fair exchange. The organization was actually putting money in, you know, in lieu of getting vouchers and things of that. So they had contracts that were working to try to get back to, charging a fare. But where they're going now, which made good sense to me, was, they're going to a total cashless system, meaning you use cards, and I was like, I don't know about that, but anyways, but what he was saying is, you know, you load these cards up, and through an organization, they can have them in every Dollar General, every, Walmart, and these are fare cards that, they have your marketing strategy on the fare card, so people go by and they pass these things, and now suddenly your marketing strategy is really good because you've got these cards out everywhere. So they're doing that, but not only that, they're doing what they call fare capping. So in other words, they're just doing an arrangement of fare options, so let's say you ride the system 3 times a day, it will maybe automatically resort to a daily pass. Or if you ride, 3 times a week, it resorts to a weekly pass, and I'm just making those numbers up, those aren't the numbers they use, I'm just
Yeah,
using
how
those.
does this work?
Or if you do so many times, you can get a monthly pass, and so the fare capping I thought was a really unique idea, and it's something we could explore more. But I thought that's a good idea, but to do that, you have to have the equipment, to read those, you have to have the equipment to print those, but, I'm a little, concerned about not doing fairs, although I will say, we spend a tremendous amount of time counting fairs, and that is a lot, it's a workload that we, have our staff do, and it takes 2 staff people, and, we do it 3 times a week, and it takes probably a couple hours each time. Would you say, Nancy, roughly?
Not quite that long, but
Okay.
How are we doing it? Does it not just,
Maybe.
does it not just go like, at the bank they have a change machine
No.
and then the dollar
No.
machine?
no.
Can't do that.
They have to be unlocked, dumped, and then we have to put them in a coin separator where it separates the coin and counts it. And then we have to straighten all the dollars and put them in a dollar counter where it runs. Yeah, it's very,
And
It is
it's very timely.
In Shreveport, as large as a system as they were, they had, fare boxes, automated fare boxes, but they had 2 technicians on staff all the time working on the fare boxes, so now, that they've got card readers, they don't need that, they're automatic, it's much like when you're in an airplane, you buy a key card, you swipe your card.
The Vegas system works off the cards, and it is not convenient, most especially for visitors, but it is not convenient at all. You have to, have purchased the little card already when you get on, and they have to, you're doing math in a bus doorway, and
I agree, and I've always felt like, why don't the system take what almost everybody's got in their pocket, some
Yeah.
sort of a credit card or a debit card,
Yeah.
it should be able to take that. The processing of that, the time that it takes to process that is what is the holdup, is that right, Greg?
Yeah, it's too long. The new ways, there's several ways, and I've been to a couple different conferences and things on the fair deal. The card is, like he's speaking of, being able to go to these different locations. You can have it preloaded, so whatever cash and stuff, the same amount of stuff the same amount of money you use to go buy tickets and stuff like that. And they have in mind the people that's unbanked as well. So everybody don't have bank accounts and stuff of that nature, but they can able to take whatever cash they have in their hand and go to a Dollar General store or go to a library that's close in their neighborhood if we set up something with them, whatever, or go downtown or wherever they at, Walmart, and put money on a card. And it's different types of machines out there and ways to do it, but it's as easy as you tap in that card on that reader and you can get on. Stuff like
So
that.
almost everybody has a cell phone, so why can't they just
You can
scan
do that
their
too.
phone?
Right.
They do that?
They have that option linked with that too,
Okay.
some agencies.
Mhm.
And so you can use,
That's it.
people who don't always have smartphones or whatever, which more people have now, and they're giving it away now too.
Yeah.
But for those who don't have smartphones, it's easy for agencies, for a marketing standpoint, to get cards with City Enforcement Transit on it and give those out. They necessarily don't have to pay for them, but they just have to put the money on the card to use. And then people who have cell phones, they can easily download an app, tap it against that reader, and pay for their rides that way as well. So it helps the people that's unbanked or people who have those type of devices and means. And to go to his point of fare capping, they're using those different means too to kind of help. So we got $35 monthly pass, and so if somebody rides without ever buying a monthly pass and they end up spending $35 in 2 weeks, so it'll automatically say, okay, this person spent $35 in 2 weeks. what we'll do is they have the rest of the month free because they reached that $35 amount, so.
I thought that was a really good
Absolutely.
explanation, really good
Yeah.
possibility. One of the things that they're doing, as they start this thing up, is they're making sure that they have plenty of kiosks out there, plenty of
Right.
places to sell those cards, so that they can use their debit cards and credit cards. But I still have that hiccup, and I have the hiccup a little bit about not allowing cash, because I know some people, that's all they have. But if you had an option like that, maybe, there would be much less cash to count, to track, because the
And some people
preferred.
prefer the less cash option, like my husband doesn't, you wouldn't find $1 in his wallet. If you just asked him today, you wouldn't find $1 in there. He just doesn't care. It would be easier for him to
And
be
it
able
still
to try
takes,
something.
and it still takes time, believe it
Yeah.
or not, with cash. It don't seem like it takes a long time, but one of the things that, especially our drivers, talk about is having cash ready at hand.
Yeah.
And having that person get on the bus,
I'm not
digging
the fastest.
for
yeah.
quarters,
Guilty.
dimes,
I'm
and
just-
pennies. Would you hurry up and get on? But yeah,
I'm
we still have those issues.
Well, I think we've got some good ideas. Today was just to discuss it a little bit and give us some feedback on your thoughts. And so I think that's plenty of discussion for what we need. And I'm hoping to bring this back again. I wanna do this whole year and try to figure out a good strategy before we do something to make sure it's something everybody can live with.
Anything you add, any new ideas can help, because people always wanna try out the new.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
Item 4 is other business, access road update and bus stop shelter update.
Okay, so we are making, progress on the access road. Right now, they're, actually doing an appraisal on the, property that we're going to, have to acquire to put the road through. We're at the 60% design mark, from the engineer, so, they've got that, that's enough that we can, put together, what we need for our shared, or joint use, our shared use, agreement with the A&M Railroad. So currently I've asked, Harmon Properties to sign a amended, easement that includes, when they did more fine tuning on the design, they changed the legal description a bit, so, we had to adjust that, and so we're having to adjust the easement. So I'm waiting on his signature for that, so that we can incorporate that into the shared use agreement. And then we can start moving forward. We've already been in contact with the property owners, White, that owns the property we're going across, and with Harmon, so everybody's in the loop. I think we're moving forward on that project. It's just a matter of time getting those things done, documents put together. And as far as the, bus stop shelter update, all 10 of the, shelters that we did as part of the, artwork and thing downtown have been completed now, so those are done.
It looked great.
We still have, a shelter that we need to put up at, Kelly that we're working on, Kelly Walmart. And then, one other location,
71 Walmart.
Neighborhood Market.
Neighborhood Market.
Neighborhood Market, yeah. There is one at the, Walmart on Zero Street, but we're gonna have to come back and do some modifications to that because, the area was so small, they didn't get a good curb cut in for wheelchair access, so we're working on that. But we're really closing in on our shelter project, getting those done. So we should be able to get that, wrapped up pretty quick. And I was able to, feature this on, at the Noon Exchange Club, I guess it was, last Friday. And I shared, a lot about the First Presbyterian Church and how they helped us with our entire, shelter program, and were first to put in the Art Infused project. And that, we were able to continue that with, the donation that we got from Sarah Ridgely and 646, Cooperation in the shelters that we did there, so, I think it was a pretty thorough, presentation, and everybody enjoyed all the things that are happening at the, transit department, so thanks to you all. That's all I have.
Item 5, Commissioner Forum, anybody have anything to add?
I know, I thought that the screens in the buses were supposed to update all at once and enable us to keep more up to the minute current information on there. And I noticed last week, I took a part of a route that I don't normally take, and so I was looking at the screen more than I usually do, and I noticed that it was still displaying information from January. You know, we still had the Martin Luther King Day Free Ride Day on there. Is there something wrong with the way these are updated, or was it just that bus, or?
I take blame for that. That's probably me. I think that bus was out in the shop, and
It was
I
the
didn't-
Towson bus?
I didn't get a chance to update that one, which I'm updating all the buses today,
Okay.
this evening, so that's
Okay.
on me. I'll take that.
How it happens, we've got a big fleet, but I noticed this isn't a problem that I notice all the time. Usually they're pretty good about it, but I happen to notice it on an
We
off
try to
day.
keep our information, and Greg does a good job, and Nancy too, on keeping the, website up to date and,
Mhm.
and current information. And, we got some accolades on how easy it was to read from Julie Moncrief with, when she was looking up our website for information about the presentation and Noon Exchange. And, she, complimented us quite a bit about, this is a really good website, I put a lot of work and a lot of effort into it. We feel like that's our best tool out there for, getting out information of what we do. But yeah, that's, so we'll try to keep that up to date.
Absolutely.
It's hard when you have so many different,
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
platforms
I
and
just caught the off
information.
day on that one, cause it isn't a pervasive problem.
but anyway, so hopefully that, helps.
Item number 6, Citizens Forum. Anybody here want to speak
I'd
to
like
that?
to thank you for your updates you do on the city meetings. I usually watch online, and I can't believe Andre's here because it was so long.
Oh, I know, last night, I was up all night right now last night.
So when I can't watch them all, I appreciate you
Well,
doing those
thank you.
updates. You do such a good job.
Thank
on that.
you.
Yeah. I just wanted to also add on the ridership that you talked about. Is it possible in Fort Smith to create car-free zones, like for certain events, or when we have events like that are focused on downtown, like the Mayor's 4th of July celebration, for instance? Do you tend to see more ridership with those events? Because it's, versus parking a bunch of cars down there at the park, would it be easier just for everyone to take the bus down there? Or do
You
see
talking
that?
about on the 4th of July?
Yeah, when we have big events, like we have the Still Horse Rally coming up,
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
do people tend to have you noticed if certain events trigger people to take the bus more often?
I don't know, I'm looking at Greg and I'm looking at Jason,
Great question.
I don't see a real huge increase.
don't see a
Yeah.
big influx or.
Because we do, for the 4th of July, is,
Mhm.
we don't have service on the 4th of July.
Oh, that's right.
But it is sponsored through whatever agency or whatever, and so it's
Mhm.
completely free, and we do have
Considered a charter.
a charter, right?
Considered a
It's
charter.
a charter, I'm sorry. Thank you, Nancy. It's a charter, so we do have shuttle downtown area for the 4th of July. Other events, we do some deviations, depending on what is blocked, some detours and stuff.